You're listening to the best, the bravest. Interviews with the FDNY's elite. Episode 205, Volume 25 of the best, the bravest interviews with the FDNY's elite. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of the Mike the New Haven podcast. Over 200 episodes now. Still feels crazy to say, but I've been at this a while, and I've been fortunate enough to talk with some great guests. If you haven't checked out last night's show, that was Volume 21 of the E-Men inside the NYPD's Emergency Service Unit with Joe Guerra, who was originally with the Housing Police in their rescue unit, and upon the merger of the departments, of course, went over to Truck 3 in the Bronx, and he talked about that chilling story in August of 2000. He's very fortunate to be alive. He was shot in the face during a shootout in Brooklyn with an EDP in August of 2000. So good talking with Joe about a 12-year career. It ended prematurely due to those injuries, but he's now bitter. You know, a good guy with a heck of a story. And that's the same theme for, of course, tonight with my next guest, who for 14 years fought fires in the nation's crown jewel city, a fire explorer during his teenage years. His passion for the fire service extended into his stint with the Air Force as well as the Air National Guard, joining the FDNY in 1992. Truck 19 in the Bronx is where he started. And he, of course, went to Rescue 3, which is where he finished up his entire career spent in the Bronx. That for Volume 25 of the best, the bravest interviews with the FDNY's elite, Mr. Jeff Cool. Welcome, Jeff. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Good. Great for you to be here. Been a long time coming to try to get you on. I think I'd reach out to you back in January, February of this year. So here we are now, in August, I finally get you.
Yeah. Yeah. And summer's blowing right by. It's lucky you got me,
I know. I hate it. I hate the winter. I'm not looking forward to it. But that said, first question is an easy one. Tell me where you grew up, Jeff.
So I grew up in Rockland County in Haverstraw, New York. A very diverse community. It actually was settled by the Dutch way back when. It's actually the brick capital of the United States. New York City was built from the bricks of Haverstraw, and I lived there my whole life till I went in active duty Air Force.
And your passion for the fire service, like I said, when I was introducing you, began, I should say, really early on. You were a fire explorer. I love programs like that. It really fosters the youth's interest, and it also keeps them out of trouble, keeps them disciplined and focused in the right areas. How did that program open up for you?
So, well, first, my dad was a volunteer fireman in Haverstraw. He, as a kid, he's originally from West Virginia, and he was hung around a volunteer firehouse down there. And anyway, he worked for the New York State Thruway Authority on the Tappan Zee Bridge. And way back when, they actually had towing and fire. And they had multiple fire trucks for the Tappan Zee Bridge. So I always had a passion for the fire service as a young kid, going with him to the volunteer firehouse in Haverstraw, or, asking him what happened at work, I guess, I don't know when the Fire Explorer program started, but, some of my older friends, they were involved in it. And as soon as I turned 14, I threw my hat in a ring, and, the Fire Explorer program is part of the Boy Scouts of America. The Explorer programs are. And I was a Cub Scout, Weeblo, Boy Scout, and, so it was just a progression, I guess, if you will. But, that was the best part of the Boy Scouts, was the Fire Explorers. So many of the guys that I was in the Fire Explorers way back as a kid, they evolved either as a New York City fireman or a police officer. It's just great to see that, guys evolved from that, and it kind of molded us to who we were or who we are today,
Talking with Jeff Cool. This is Volume 25 of the best and bravest interviews with the FDNY's elite. If you got a question for Jeff, fire away in the chat. Early on, let me give a shout out to Jay Driscoll. He's always here. So is Joe Baliga. Same thing with him. Steven Zaslavsky, of course, a fire commissioner in my neck of the woods in New Haven. Garrett Lindgren's here tonight. He's watching. He'll be on the show soon. Good man, Garrett. Look forward to chatting with him. And William Cooney, he just tuned in as well. Thank you, Bill. Good to see you, too. So getting into the Air Force now. I think you were there for a number of years, but active duty initially 85 to 88. What prompted you to go into the Air Force?
So, I guess I had this dream as a young kid that I always wanted to be a New York City fireman, and I didn't know too many New York City firemen. But like many young kids, that were in the Fire Explorer program or, the volunteer fire service, you're reading Firehouse magazine and reading Firehouse magazine like it was like a nudie magazine, like it was Playboy or whatever. I mean, read it cover to cover, and just couldn't get enough of it. And eventually, I found Report from Engine Company 82, and that's. I mean, I knew then that I wanted to be a New York City fireman, and I wanted to work, in the South Bronx, and but I knew I had to be 21 years of age to be appointed to the New York City Fire Department. So one day I'm reading Firehouse magazine. I don't know, as might have been 16 years of age, and I find an article on the DoD Fire School at Chanute Air Force Base. It was I think it was like a 4-page article. I wish I still had it today. And my dad was an Army vet, and I said, Dad, I think I want to, go in the Air Force, and start my career there. And he just said, make sure you get a guaranteed job, whatever you do, because these recruiters are just looking for numbers. Actually went to the recruiter in Spring Valley, New York, and was talking to him, and he goes, we don't have firefighters in the Air Force, so he wasn't even aware of it. I'm like, sir, look at this magazine right here, and we looked it up, and I got a guaranteed contract. I signed it at 17. In my junior year, I signed my contract with the United States Air Force, and August 19th, 1985, shipped off to boot camp at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. Some of the hottest months of the year being there, August and September, and I was 6 weeks, and from there, I went to Chanute Air Force Base, and that's like in Rantoul, Illinois. The base is no longer there. That base has been closed, and they're at Goodfellow Air Force Base in Texas now. But went to my initial training there, and from there, they tell you to fill out your dream sheet, if you will. Like they're going to send you really where you want to go. Yeah, I want to go to Hawaii. Well, I pretty much filled out the East Coast, and I wanted to really go to Florida. And anyway, I ended up, my last name being cool. I think the guy had some fun with me, and I ended up in Alaska for 3 years. Yeah, I seen 45 below zero, and I seen without a wind chill, and I seen 90 plus degrees in the summertime. But a great base as far as firefighting goes. A very diverse base. We had fighters, we had refuelers, we had helicopters, we had A-10s. I was up there during the Cold War, so it was great. A lot of action, a lot of stuff going on. And my fire chief up there, Bud Rotroff, civilian, he was a former smoke jumper. So he had us all up to speed and trained as wildland firefighters. We were all red card carrying firefighters, and we were out there, fighting thousands of acres sometimes of fire, and really not my cup of tea. I mean, it was it's backbreaking, and when I say it's not my cup of tea, it's because you could have a row of taxpayers going or a bunch of frames going, and you see progression. But I mean, it's really hard to see progression when you're on a front line, and you don't see it right away. I mean, you could be out there for days, weeks, doing this stuff, and it's backbreaking.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, but you know what? It takes there's an old song by Faith No More, and the line in the song is "We care a lot." It's a dirty job, but someone's got to do it. It does build character, I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome to experience it, and I'm glad I got a chance to experience it. But it really wasn't for me, But still, I had my eye on the prize. I knew I wanted to be a New York City fireman, and I was just waiting for the next test. I think it was 87. I think December of 87, maybe, when they gave the test that I was appointed off of. So I flew down from Alaska. Actually, back up for a minute. So when I was up in Alaska, I took a detail to a bombing range. So it was a 30-day detail. So basically what I did, I sat in the air traffic control tower with the range officer, which is another pilot, and we just watched the planes come in and drop bombs and strafe targets. And if there was a fire, I was the first line of defense out there. If we needed an airdrop out there, I'd call it in. My downtime, I just kept doing old tests over and over and over again. Just kept doing them. And when I flew down, took the test in December, did real well on the written test. I don't know, 97, 98 I had, and it was just a waiting game. Back up to Alaska. I was involuntary extended. It was supposed to be what was it? I don't know, it was a 2.5, and it ended up basically I was going to be there my whole 4 years of active duty. It was during the Grant Rudman administration, a lot of cutbacks, and bases are closing, and they don't want people moving around. They're trying to save money. So I was actually TDY to Korea. I was in Cheongju Air Base. I was on a Korean air base. We were playing war games, and my dad ran into the fire chief from Stewart, and they just started talking, and said, "Hey, I'm looking for guys." And I Palace chased my last year out of active duty Air Force, and Palace chasing is basically whatever you have left on your contract, you got to double it in the Air National Guard. So I had a year left on my active duty contract, and Palace chased into the Guard. I worked in the same firehouse as a state firefighter as an Air Guard firefighter, and actually wore a military uniform as a state firefighter. Believe it or not, it kind of weird, but we did it.
It must have been cool.
Yeah. Well, it was cool to work there, but it gets old wearing a military uniform all the time. I'm proud and honored to wear a military uniform, but I mean, it's like, you work 24 on 24 on 20. We worked, it was just, it was grueling, we didn't make a lot of money there. We didn't do a lot of fire duty unless, we went mutual aid and to the city of Newburgh or to, one of the smaller towns there. There's, I guess I'm happy to say, I really have no big plane crashes under my my resume. It's some of my friends crash after crash they could tell you about. Both with active duty, Air National Guard, and with the city. My buddy Dave Russell, he was at 50-50 when it went in. US Air 50-50 when it went in. He was down in Florida when they had an F-16 go belly up in the midfield. And he had a couple of more active duty, So, some guys are like that. I guess the black cloud.
No, well, just because you didn't even get flight 587 then in 01, or did you go to that one?
And so I finished my 24-hour tour that morning.
Okay.
And so we were on the third floor in Rescue 3, changing out, showering, and the voice alarm lit up. And John Olson was the boss that was on duty. We were still working the ABC platoon at that time, So Lieutenant Olson wasn't my lieutenant. Well, he was my lieutenant, but I wasn't in his group, So he got on the bitch box and basically said, if you're not working today, do not get on the rig. I mean, he used explicit language, it's like, because we already seen that happen, on 9/11 and
right.
Shortly after, so.
Right. Yeah, it only been 2 months. I'll get to certainly the Rescue 3 years in a minute. And speaking of, here's Mike Milner from Rescue 4. He's watching. Nice. His 19 truck gave Jeff the only cool he needed. Mike always quick with the one-liner,
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And I've had Mike on the show before. For those of you that are new to the show, check it out. It was earlier this year, Volume 9, The Best, The Bravest. A while ago now, because like I said, at the top, we're at Volume 25. So 92, like you said, you get in, and immediately, you go over to 19 truck. And of course, the academy's great, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing like being in the firehouse, being around these guys and doing what most probies, both as young police officers or young firemen, ought to do, which is zip the lips, open the ears. So you're watching these guys at work. Who would you credit for being pivotal in your growth as a fireman early on, either by what they directly showed you or what you learned by just watching them at work?
Well, I just want to back up for a second, because
Sure.
I took, like when I came on a job, I just think it's important because I just watch the decay of New York City right now and the decay of the job. I know we're not talking politics, but it really frustrates me because that job I wanted it so bad. I wanted it so bad, and we had a combined written and physical test, a score test. And when I was working at Stewart, myself and another coworker, Chris Delicio, we ran the air traffic control tower every night that we worked with the vest on. Every night, up and down, like throwing up. I mean, it sucked. But you know what? You want that job. It's a job that's given or given. It's earned, not given. And you got to want it. So I broke my hump, and I ended up 1,362 on the list, and I waited and waited for that job, and that was like almost 99, overall score,
Mhm.
and by the grace of God, I landed on my feet, like a 19 truck, it's like I didn't know I was going, like I didn't know 19 truck from 44 truck or 31 truck, like I knew nothing of that. Read a book, Report from Engine Company 82, but I didn't know like where I actually landed, and then Chief DiBernado, Joey's dad, he actually became my rabbi even before I knew Chief D. His aide, Patty Boat, 55 truck guy, was in the Air National Guard with me, and he went to Chief D and he says, "Hey, Chief, I got this guy in the Air Guard. Can we get him into? He's a good guy. Can we get him into a busy shop?" And by the grace of God, I landed in 19 truck. And I didn't. I honestly I didn't know 19 truck, but I praise 19 truck every day. I mean, I was talking to some guys just at a golf outing last week, and guys pushing one truck, one super truck, tower ladder, in a Bronx, and I'm like, if I have my choice,
Oh, where'd Jeff go? No. We lost Jeff. I didn't do anything. Well, we'll wait for him to come back. This is volume 25 of the Best of the Bravest interviews with the FDNY's elite. Here's now what I have to do now is what my friend Romatori refers to as tap dancing, and Jeff's back, so I didn't have to tap dance for a while.
I'm sorry, my butt, my earbud fell out, and then it just went blank. I was like, that was crazy. So I ended up in 19 truck, and I was like, I was amazed to where I landed. I mean, it's a very depressed area. It was burnout. And I guess just back up for a second is that is where the book Report from Engine Company 82 it was written about, and 50 and 19 is in that book, and there's guys that I work with that are in that book, but their names are changed to protect them, and
Yep, Dennis said that. He did say that.
And it's it was amazing to work there. Like I remember reporting in Lieutenant Billy Weber. The first day in 19, I got to tell a funny story. My first day in 19 truck, stuff that doesn't go on anymore, because the guys are too soft, it's just, it's to me, it's not hazing. It's just welcoming, to test you a little bit and to see where you are. But I knock on the door, hey, probationary firefighter Jeff Cole reporting for duty. Hey, wait here. Whoever the guy was that, was at the house watch. The captain will see you in a few minutes. They come and get me. The captain's in the kitchen. I go in the kitchen, and the brothers are all in the kitchen, but on the kitchen table, there's a guy completely naked, face down, with an apple in his mouth, and another guy completely naked, rubbing him down with olive oil. And everybody's sitting around, just like nothing's going on, and I'm like, okay, they're like, you want to be next? I'm like, I'm good, but they just touched it, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I ended up in a great place, and but getting back to Billy Weber, he was always pushing me, I guess the cat was out of the bag, long before I said it. They're like, so hey kid, what'd you do, in the Air Force? I work with airplanes. so what did you do at Stewart Airport? I worked with airplanes. Were you a 57150? And that was my job description. He was a 57150 back in the day, as an Air Force firefighter, so they knew, right from the get-go, and they had some fun with me, with that, but it was all good. But there was, so many guys there that molded me, I don't know if I could single out, one guy. That firehouse produced some of the best leaders in the job. Carlos Rivera was a lieutenant in 50 Engine. He became the commissioner. Patty McNally, he was one of the high-ranking chiefs in the department. Billy Seelig, he was one of my captains in 19. He became the chief of SOC. So there's, I could go on and on. Mike Buckeye, big guy, and he was a fireman with me, and he rebuilt the Marine. He was part of rebuilding the Marine unit. Really getting it going. So there's a ton of guys there. Jimmy Majak. Jimmy Majak. I had him in Proby School, and he ran the physical fitness unit. He was one of the big guys. He passed in, I believe, 1997. We lost Jimmy. He started battling cancer in 96. We lost him in 97. But just an Adonis of a man, as far as physical strength, a saint of a man that, you just could do, he didn't see the wrong in somebody. He would find the good in somebody. Before my time, somebody, one of the local kids, they stole the shoes off the rig, and he ran barefoot after the kid and grabbed the kid. And he says, all you had to do was ask for him. I would have gave him to you, But this is a guy that pushed me to be the best physical shape that I could in the job, starting back in the academy. And at the end of his career, I got to work with him in 19 truck. He's got the irons and I got the can, and I'm 20, 25, 26, and I'm following this older man up the project stairs. He says, bebopping up the stairs like it's nothing, we're going 20 plus flights. And, it was just, it was great. There's guy after guy that I could talk about. There's some guys that are, no longer here, like one night we had like 30 water leaks, right? And it was a hot summer night, and all the hydrants are open. So the projects, they're not getting water pressure, so they open up their faucet, they leave the faucets open, and the hydrant gets shut down. They forget they opened their faucet. Now you got water leaks, and they're just leaking from the top floor all the way down, But we ran to 30 different water leaks that night. So Tommy Kelly, God rest his soul, from 19 truck, he lost his life post 9/11 from cancer. He says, hey kid, we're going to force these conventionally tonight. We bang on the door, nobody answers. Instead of using a rabbit tool, you use the Halligan and axe and hone your skills that way, and that's just a great teacher right there, a mentor of mine, so.
And that's a lot of, you mentioned so many great names, and I love, Dennis was a friend of mine. He passed away, of course. I was fortunate enough to be able to speak with him, and it is true. That book right there, I have it on my shelf. I read it from cover to cover. It is definitively the Bible on fire service, because there's so many guys, not just in New York, countrywide, even worldwide, because it was translated into so many different languages, that became firefighters because of that book, or at least have a deep-seated interest, if they're not firefighters like myself, in the fire service because of that book. And I'm glad you mentioned the Marine Division too, because I believe that's part of SOC. When SOC was officially formed in '98, it went into SOC.
Yep.
Yeah, and look at where it is now, of course.
Yeah. Oh, it's the whole job has just evolved so much post 9/11. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm just looking at my screen. Let me add some light in here. I just it's a little dark. It's going to get dark.
No problem. No, it's dark over here. Because we're having a thunderstorm here in New Haven. The rain's really coming down. And Joe Malika, yes, I'll answer that question momentarily. And Bill Cooney, yes, it's one of the best books I've ever read too. Before I continue, because me and one of the viewers of this show, he was also a fireman. He was in the corrections field. He was a corrections officer as well, Joe Maliga. And one of his running bits with me is asking the guest if it's an ESU cop or a firefighter. Did he ever deliver a baby? So did you ever deliver a baby?
No, I never delivered a baby. No.
All right. So that's Joe Maliga is, like I said, good man. That's a running joke between him and Joe. So there's your answer, Joe. So that said, in 19 truck at that time, even though fire duty is not what it was during the 60s, 70s, during the height of the Warriors, like what Dennis wrote about for 82 and 31, it's not like fire duty is dwindling to a screeching halt. There's still a lot of work to go around, and that's just not even counting in the non-fire emergencies I'm sure you guys were going to. On average, when you first got there, 92, 93, 94, how many fires was it common to go to during, a given shift, a given week?
I don't remember how many we went to, but I mean, I'll describe the South Bronx then, I mean, it was Morrisania. That's where we worked. 19 truck is 167 on Washington Avenue, not too far from Yankee Stadium. And the book or movie Fort Apache to Bronx, that's the area right there. That's, I mean, it's a crazy area, and a lot of burnout of vacant buildings, like all of Boston Road was burnt, it was burnt out, and it continued to burn. I mean, there'd be nights that you would get, a multiple, I mean, it's just rip roaring, turn into a tower ladder job, a lot of frames, but when I don't know what year it was, if it was 90, 96, 97, time, just gets lost. But 92 engine moved in with 50 and 19 in a 2/6 battalion, and 44 truck moved up on with 42 engine because they were renovating 92 and 44's house. So our response area, like 19 truck, is second due to the world. It was just great, they're like we're second due, and we just. But when 44 went up on the hill, our response area got so big. We're running, we're running south, with 82 and 31, and then we're running up into the hybrid section. We're going up, like where 44's boxes were, and our OSW, occupied structural work. It wasn't runs, it was fire duty. I mean, we shot way up. I mean, we were in the top 10. I mean, that's a rear mount, not a tower ladder. And it was great. And we really bonded with 92 engine. It was like, I remember they had a party. 92 and 44. They had a party for 50 and 19 and 42 engine. Like to thank us, for the time. But a lot of guys in 92, they didn't want to go back to Morris Avenue. They just enjoyed it. It was, we had a blast, I mean, with one another. We really got to know one another. And, and it was great going to fires. It was like, it's like, you take up from one job and, you get back to quarters and there's another one, and it was a lot of fun,
Yeah. And I mean, granted, nothing against engine companies who do great work. I mean, the first ones to get there, their job primarily is to put the fire out in the first place. But I love talking to truck guys specifically, especially those truck guys that yourself and like our friend Hank Millay that later go out to rescue. Because with, guys like you guys almost become masters by the kind of companies that you're working in of roof operations. And I love talking about that with guys like you because you go there. And I remember talking about this with Tim. You can clear a lot of maydays or a lot of problems in general before it even gets to a mayday by properly securing the roof, cutting when you need to cut, knowing, of course, when not to cut as well. Tell me about roof operations as it pertains to you. How do you view it? How would you impart that knowledge and how to specifically do it to younger firefighters coming in later years?
Well, you're the eyes and ears for the incident commander, on the roof. You really got to, everything that's going on. You got to do the four-sided, walk around up there, you got to tell them where there's fire at, and, getting that bulkhead open, getting that skylight open. And, I mean, if the roof needs cut, cut it, but, you got to tell it, what's going on up there, the progression, how we're progressing and, because do you need more help up there? Do we need another soul up there? Do we need more guys, to pull or push that hole, it's it's probably it is the most important job, and as far as I'm concerned, in a truck company, because nothing shall deter the roof man from getting the roof,
Right.
you know.
Right. And you can vent the fire too, obviously, and that's when you're not on the roof. You're actually doing the venting process for the engine guys and your fellow ladder company members. But as you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. You are the eyes and ears, and sometimes you can see something that the guys on the ground can't see. I remember to your point, I recall my interview with Hank last year, where he was saying that he was on the roof surveying and he sees a guy. He's not yelling, he's not screaming. It was an elderly guy just saying, waving, saying, "Hey, I'm here. Can you help me out?" As calm as can be. But the fact is, the guys on the ground, because of the smoke condition, didn't see that, whereas the roof man did. So, you got to be eagle-eyed to be a roof man. And I think it results in not only many great rescues, but again, like I said earlier, being able to mitigate so many problems for the guys on the ground.
Yeah, and then sometimes, well, if the more seasoned you
And we lost Jeff again.
and
he's back.
and yeah, I don't know why that cut out. I have no idea why that cut out. It just went. I seen it, So I don't know why it did that. But you know, you are, with experience and the Chiefs knowing you, that they'll give you a little more trust. Like, hey, Chief, give us a couple more minutes. I mean, whether it's Jeff or Tony or whoever up on the roof. I mean, if he knows you and he trusts you, then he'll give you a little more time. But that's all with communication too. It's like, I mean, that goes from saving a building to losing a building.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's Louis Refrano, our mutual friend? What's his line? We didn't do so good here.
Yeah.
If you end up losing the building that way, of course.
Yeah.
I will say, moving ahead to like 97, 98, when Downey officially put SOC in place in 98, 61, Squad 61 goes to the Bronx. It was Engine 61, then it became Squad 61. Same thing with 41 too. They were also in the Bronx. So given what you were doing, obviously as a truck company guy, having a lot of success there, having a lot of fun. You were happy where you were, but did 41 and 61 ever reach out to you, say, "Hey, do you want to come here?"
So I knew guys in both 41 first, and then when 61 came online. And it's funny you asked that, is because Joey was one of the Joey DiBernado was one of the charter members in Squad 61. And so Chief D, the one day he stops by 50 and 19, he has roll call on the apron, and he talks to the men, and when he's done, he dismisses us, and he says, "Hey, Jeff, can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, Chief, he's, of course, you're the deputy, you're the division commander. What am I going to say, no?" He says, "Hey, Joey's, having a real good time in Squad 61. He went to X amount of jobs in his last 24, forced X amount of doors, blah, blah, blah." He goes, "What do you think? You want to go to Squad?" And at the time, like, I thought I was doing, at least 20 years in 19 truck. I was on, I mean, there was talk about me getting, going to chauffeur school and getting a seat in 19. And, a lot of guys were, molding me to be one of the senior men there. And that's not me blowing smoke. I'm telling you, more than one of my former coworkers and one of my former lieutenants, Brian McFarland, that I have the utmost respect for. He was really hurt when I left 19 truck. He told me. So I told Chief D, I said, I think about it, but in the meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm not leaving here, and then, who could foresee in the ball of the future what was going to, transpire in our world in New York City, so, I said, what, like, it was kudos to those guys that did it, but, it wasn't for me right then and there. I was, actually, I had about 8 months in the books studying for lieutenant. And when I was in 19 truck, and I was studying with a lot of guys, they call them Starfleet, a lot of these guys, retired as battalion chiefs. Some of them are still battalion chiefs, deputies, blah, 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 yeah, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I said to my wife one day, I really enjoy, being a fireman. I really enjoy being in 19 truck. She goes, "Well, then close the books," and I closed the books, and I don't look back on that. It's, I was happy being a fireman in 19 truck.
Yeah. And I've said this before, talking with both guys from the FD and the PD, that you can be just as content as simply staying a police officer, never moving up in the ranks, or staying as simply as a firefighter, never moving up in the ranks in the same precinct or in the same firehouse. Because look at where you're working. You're not working in Timbuktu. You're working in New York City. There's always going to be something to do.
Yeah.
And you can have more than enough of your fill in a 20 or 25, 30-year career just staying exactly where you are. And you loved where you are. So why leave? It makes total sense.
Yeah. I was, I was like, this is my castle, I was
Yeah.
like, uh,
It's a great place to be, great
yeah,
neighborhood. And speaking of the neighborhood, when people think of community, like I said with the police department, there's community policing, and that kind of makes sense if you're watching the cops walk around, work the beat. But the firehouse is just an integral part of the community as the precinct is. They see you too, because not only when you're first due or you go in and runs, in other neighborhoods, the first neighborhood that you're designed to protect and assist is that one, not just on
yeah.
fires, but CFRD runs and other things. So tell me about, your Truck 19's role and being with the community and getting the chance to interact with them, besides, of course, the tragic situations.
Yeah, well, some good, some bad, but at the end of the day, I mean, I can tell you that I had the utmost respect for the people that I protected. It's, I mean, it's a depressed area, and I used this term not that long ago. I was working with the fire department. I'm not going to name that department, but I used the term ghetto, that I was a ghetto firefighter. And there was a lieutenant that was at this department that took offense to it. I'm like, I wear that as a badge of honor, that I was a ghetto firefighter. I go, I chose to work in that area. I could have transferred, to Lower Manhattan, worked in a village or whatever, or worked down in the financial district. But I wanted to work, where I could, help serve people, the best to my ability. And I like going to fires. I didn't want to see somebody's house burn up. But you know what? Anytime I crawled down a hallway or hung on a rope, I didn't look at the color of the skin or the sex, of that person. I mean, I was happy to help them. And it is a very depressed area, probably one of the, at the time, one of the most depressed areas in the city. And there were shootings and stabbings and listen, the night I got off probation, the 4th of July, 1993. So I came on the 5th of July, 1992. We were backing into quarters, and we had a blockbuster thrown at us as both rigs are backing into quarters. And it blew up like right in between us. Two of my buddies, it really hurt their eardrums. It was like a stick of dynamite that was thrown at us. And I've had spackle buckets thrown off the roofs at us, like we're extinguishing, a car fire and
Airmail.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it would have hit one of us, it would have killed us. And we had a cinder block thrown off one of the project roofs. It went into the roof of 19 truck. It pushed in the roof of the rear mount, But at the same time, it never stopped me for interacting with people, I mean, and at some point in time, you get a little more street smart, who you can talk to and who you can't talk to. And, but, always help the kids out, and they ring it, I wasn't ringing the doorbell, banging on the door. Hey, Mr. Fireman, can you put air in our tire? Absolutely. Absolutely. You help these kids, and, a lot of them are from broken families, and, you just try to shape, in some way shape that kid and leave a positive impression on them, and that's what we did. It was, listen. After 9/11, we seen so much. People from all walks of life. Banging on firehouse doors, and the same thing with the precincts. Bringing food, bringing cards, just saying, hey, I'm sorry. Is there anything I could do for you? And that's what it's about. It's that's a two-way street. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, I'm surprised you guys got airmail in those days, because I'm not saying it's right. I can understand why they would throw it at the police, because it's an adversarial thing in that dynamic. But I'm like, you guys are going to help people. There's no arrest going on there. I mean, unless it's a citizen's arrest. You see somebody mugging an old lady or something like that. 10 times out of 10, not even 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, you're going to help them. So why are they chucking stuff at you?
I don't know. It was a tough neighborhood, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
We love you, as he throws cinder block off off the roof and it hits the rig. We're talking with Jeff Cole. This is volume 25, the milestone volume 25 of the best of the bravest. A quarter of century now of volumes for this mini series I started last year with the help of my friend Ray Seeley, of course, another SOC guy, as you were for a period of time. He was in 270 and later on 288. So I guess that brings us just quickly before I get to you going to Rescue 3. Were you off duty initially on 9/11?
So I finished my 24 on the night of the 10th. So okay. Yes, I was home. So my big guy now, he's 25 years old. He works in Station 17 on Ogden Avenue with EMS. You know, and he's got his sights on the job. You know, he's waiting for it. He's a paramedic on the outside, and he was a Myrtle Beach firefighter. But anyway, that morning, and my youngest, he's 22. He was born in 2000.
My age. Yeah, I was born in 2002.
Yeah, so you know, 2 young kids at home, and you know, my wife, and I'm watching Disney with my wife and my son Jeff, and a commercial comes on, and I do the typical male thing, change the channel, see what else is on. I got to turn it back because he's going to freak out. But anyway, I see that the first plane is impacted, Trade Center, and I started getting ready to go even before the total recall. And my wife is crying, Jeff's crying. He doesn't know why he's crying, but he's crying, and I took off like a bat out of hell. I had a Toyota Corolla at the time. That was my commuter car to the city. Being a military guy, I was thinking secondary targets, and I normally would go over the George Washington Bridge. I said I'm going to go over the Tappan Zee Bridge, that spans between Westchester and Rockland. I guess fortunately for myself, I didn't have a lot of gas in my car. I had to get gas. I was almost out of gas. So I had to stop in Nyack and get gas quickly, like a pit stop. Jump on the Tappan Zee Bridge. I'm on the Tappan Zee Bridge, and the state police shut the bridge down. I'm on the Westchester side of the bridge, and they shut the bridge down with us on it. There's cops and firemen and other emergency personnel on the bridge, and we're looking south into Manhattan. It's a crystal clear day, and you can see the towers burning. And so they were thinking secondary device, but they shut the bridge down with us on it. And we stood out there. I don't know how many minutes we stood out there. It was pretty quick, but it was eerie, and then it was go time again, so 100 miles an hour in a Toyota Corolla. I get in a fight with a local on the, believe it or not, that day going into the Bronx, doesn't want to let me go. I'm trying to get to the firehouse as fast as I can. I get to the firehouse, and I see 2/6 Battalion coming out of quarters. But I don't stop them because I'm not a chief. I'm not an aide. I'm thinking 19 or 50s in the house. Not thinking they're down at the Trade Center or relocated. And I get in the house, and I'm the first off-duty member in the house. There's nobody else there. The house is empty, And so shortly after, guys start filling into 50 and 19, and they start a mustering area, so we had to report to the division, and I was part of the 6th division, 1519 is, and so we go over to 155 in Melrose, and there's hundreds of guys standing out in the street, guys looking for their coworkers, their brother coworkers, and guys physically looking for their brothers that they can't get a hold of, like I was standing here with Joe and Bobby Ginley, and they couldn't find their brother John that day, and John was working, and John was lost that day, but it was eerie, to stand there, and at the same time, there's fighters, that I'm quite familiar with, Air Force fighters flying over to South Bronx, low ceiling, and that's something you don't see. It was real eerie.
Yeah, a lot of good men lost that day. And you look at SOC specifically. I remember talking about this with Chief Norman. I think of the 343 that got killed at the Trade Center when the towers came down, 97, almost 100 alone were from SOC. Squad 61 was saved because they weren't sent right away. And 270, same thing. But all the other squads that went on the first alarm, a lot of their guys did not make it back. I think of all the squads and rescues, only one guy from Rescue 5, and that's because they sent him back to go move a truck at the last second. He lived, whereas everybody else, of course, perished. And that's not the note you want to go into a rescue company on. You'd rather be that somebody retired after a nice long career, and that's that. But SOC was decimated, and so that leads to your entry in October of 01. Just getting there. Getting into a rescue company is tough enough as it is, no matter how much experience you have, because of the vaunted history of the rescue companies of New York City. But to go there on that note, how much tougher did it make, or did it make it easier given the fact that the guys had just been through the worst moment of their lives?
It wasn't easy. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. But when I say that, that's I don't know. That's one of the hardest things I ever did. But meanwhile, these guys just lost their friends, their brothers, and there was I lost 33 friends that day. And
Sorry.
And I knew that. Thank you. I knew 97 guys in SOC were lost, and one of my buddies, Tommy Foley from Rescue 3, was he was part of that, and that he was lost that day, and I talked to my wife, and I said, I think I'm gonna go have an interview, and I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring for either predominantly Rescue 3. That's where I really wanted to be. I was asked would I go other places, and I'm like, well, I really want to go to Rescue 3, and so I was at home, and I get a phone call from Ralph Tizo, and no, I'm sorry. First, I don't know how this happened. I don't know how my name got up to Rescue 3, but I had an interview with Ralph Tizo, the captain of Rescue 3. And I don't know if you know who Ralph Tizo is, but a highly decorated fireman. He's got the Mexican General's starter kit, with the stack of medals like this. A small guy in height, but just to me, an intimidating guy, and I don't mean because he's I'm trying to use a word, not use bad language, not that he's a tool or anything, he's intimidating because of who he is. He carries himself, in a great.
You don't want to let him down.
Yeah, you don't want to let him down. So anyway, I had this interview on whatever day it was, but it's set up that I got to go to Rescue 3, and I'm going in for a night tour of the 19 truck. So I had my interview with Captain Tizo and Rescue 3, and Rescue 3 is not in quarters. They're down at Trade Center, and I go in and I had the interview, and I had an ulcer. I swear to God, I got an ulcer that day from sitting there with him, doing this, and then to go into 19 at night, and then to hold everything inside, and I couldn't say anything that I was going to Rescue 3, like that I was thinking about going to Rescue 3. And a couple weeks later, I get a phone call. I'm one of the first guys to go to Rescue 3 post 9/11, and I'm there with it was myself, Stevie Nasso from 33 Truck, and Pat McKenna from 45 Truck. Two busy truck companies. We're the first three guys that they bring over from outside of SOC. And some guys came from the squads to help out there, like Jeremy Castle and Joe Light, but we were the first of the guys that were from the outside coming in. And basically we're sitting in a dead guy's chair, if you will, seat, chair, whatever. It was tough place to be, because now you got to prove yourself. You got to prove yourself as a fireman. you got to prove yourself that you belong here, that you're a rescue firefighter, that you got the guts, the balls, the know-how, the stamina. And, that time we were going from, we were going to school, we were going to fires, we were going to the trade center, digging, for our fellow brothers and our, fellow Americans. And we were going to funerals. And that was just like, it was like a blur for like, it was like 10 months, whatever it was. It was just like, I was gone. I was checked out from the family, you just lost out on a lot, but, I do it all again, it was just,
Yeah, that period from, that day up until like at least early 2003, that was like a blur in all the wrong ways because of what had happened. You talk to a lot of guys, half of them don't even remember 2002, except for little scant moments here and there, because so much of it was spent at the pile. Then once the pile closed down, all the anniversary ceremonies and things like that. 01 to 03, I don't even think things got back to some semblance of, okay, we're back to business as usual until like what, 04?
Probably. And then my career start, and that was probably my best year, 2004,
Because probably at that stage you got a dozen years in the job. You're at the apex of your experience. You've been a Bronx fireman your whole career. You're in Rescue 3. And quick note on that, because Rescue 3 is so cool, and I talked about this with Chief Norman, and that now every rescue has a collapse rig assigned to it. You guys were ahead of the curve. You guys had the collapse rig before anybody else did, and you guys are regarded, at least, not just in New York City, but across the nation, as not only pioneers, but experts in the art of collapse rescue. So are there any specific building collapses? Because sometimes, listen, snows in the winter, heavy snow on the rooftop, construction goes bad. Are there any particular collapses you can recall going to where that rig came in handy, you were able to make a rescue?
Well, I don't have any of those, the trench collapses and stuff like that. But I worked with the guys that were pioneers and all that, and, evolving the collapse rescue part, you can look at, Chief Downey was, he was at the helm of everything,
Yes,
making it go. But, guys like, John O'Connell, Nicky Giordano, those guys, they were there, they were doing it, they were teaching us, and, it was like learning. I did some shoring jobs and stuff, but, nothing that was like, spectacular that we made a rescue, but it was, the tools that we had, and the tools that they have today, I was like, these are great tools, stuff that we could do, we could, punch holes in concrete, and, we had listening devices that you could hear somebody, just a slight tap, trapped in rubble, cameras and.
Yep. All right. Back to tap dancing while we wait for Jeff to return. He'll be back quickly, I'm sure. I'm going to pull up the collapse rescue rig momentarily as we wait for Jeff to come back. It's volume 25 of the Best, the Bravest. And here's Jeff again.
All right, so we're gonna blame this on Xfinity,
Maybe.
Well, that's who I have here for my.
It might be me because it's raining, and maybe it's affecting the signal. It might be me. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, but they say that we could have some storms down here tonight at the beach, but who knows? Tomorrow I'm actually gonna go see real quick that I'm at the beach. I'm gonna go see Captain Bob Farrell. I'm gonna go visit with Bob. Tomorrow, that was captain of 31 truck back in the day. Great guy, Batman. So
tell him I said hello and give him my number. I want to get him on the show.
Well, I'll try my best. I know another podcast is trying, and they
yes, they certainly are. I often say, first, if you're a fireman, you go on their show, and then you lower yourself down about 10, 15 notches, and you come down to my little show.
Well, I was number 6 on that other show, and that show's evolved a lot.
It has.
It's good stuff. Primarily I do this. It's not to talk about me. It's to talk about my brothers, the guys that I work with, the guys that have gone before me, and the charity work that I do today. So that's that. But I'll let you go. Like back to Rescue 3 now. You're asking about collapse now, and hopefully we don't lose the signal again.
No, I just wanted to pull up the rig because I love the collapse rig. This was a photo originally taken in '97 and it's a thumbnail for this podcast. And again, so many tools on it. It's not as big as the other rescue rigs that you would see, but nevertheless, it can really come in handy when you're in a collapse scenario.
Yeah, it's a Home Depot or Lowe's on wheels. I mean, it had everything on it. I was a chauffeur, collapse chauffeur. And it was if you could back it in, the first time Lieutenant Kevin Williams used to buy you lunch if you could back it in on the first shot. Our quarters was very tight. It was like inches on either side of the mirror to put it in. It was one of the oldest firehouses in the city. It was 46 engines, original firehouse, I believe, and it was built for the horses. So
right. Big Blue, as they call it. I wonder where the name came from, Big Blue.
You know what? I don't know quite where the name Big Blue came from, but I believe Pete Ortel, he was lieutenant in Rescue 3. He had something to do with it, and I know at one time that they were talking about doing away with that logo, and it was another engine company or truck company over in Harlem, I believe, that said, no, that's when they see Big Blue coming, they know the fire is going to go out. And you know what? That could be lore. I'm not blowing smoke. But it could be lore. But I do know Pete Ortel, and he's a tremendous artist. I didn't work with him as a firefighter, but I mean, the guy can draw, carve, sculpt. He's just amazing. So, and he's the guy that did the original Big Blue. So.
I want to talk for a second about details because, of course, rescues are part of SOC. They were absorbed in the SOC when Chief Downey formed it in '98. Besides, of course, the squads in the Bronx, 41 and 61. And this is a two-pronged question because I want to talk about other separate details in a moment. What squads did you enjoy, or other rescues did you enjoy being detailed to?
So I worked in every one of the rescues except Rescue 2. I don't know why I never ended up in Rescue 2, So,
the rescue, as they call it.
Yeah, whatever. No, listen, I got a lot of friends, I mean, listen, Liam and I have been friends before Rescue, Liam Flaherty. And he was in 44 truck when I was in 19, But that's one I never worked in. But I liked working in Manhattan, I was like, I like to work in Squad 18, because it was different, going down in the village and stuff. And that was, especially on a night tour, because it was like, all right, we could, get something down here. But then it was also just, checking out the show down there. There was a good show to be seen, outside of the South Bronx, it's like,
right.
But yeah, I don't know. I had fun everywhere I went, in Rescue 1. They'd like to bust your chops and make you, turn the radio up as loud as they could, but I enjoyed working there too. It's just anywhere in SOC, I never worked in the boats, so I couldn't tell you too much about the boats, but, a lot of fun. And listen, I got friends all over the job, so.
And I do like that about the job, that they will, because it's so good for camaraderie, getting detailed to other places, because you can see how they work. I know guys will tell me just for travel purposes, it was a little tough going to Staten Island. Not that they didn't like Staten Island, but it's a bit of a haul from where you might be. But even then, going to Rescue 5, and now, of course, you have Squad 8, which was just recently formed, it's good for guys, because each borough, same city, obviously, but each borough brings its own unique set of challenges.
And that was what's really cool, like if 9/11 didn't happen, I don't know if I would have made the move to go somewhere else. But, unfortunately, 9/11 happened. And fortunately for me, it allowed me to see the rest of the job, to really open my eyes to it, and that's one thing I would say to a young firefighter, not necessarily, to, run right to SOC, but, experience the other boroughs and see what they're about, take a detail, if there's a detail somewhere, to the Marine unit or whatever, just see what it's about. See, maybe it's something for you. I mean, listen, I'm all about being an online firefighter. I'm not a coward, there's plenty of guys that want to hide somewhere and, be offline, and I want to be with, I want to be with A-game firefighters, and that's what SOC is, it's A-game firefighters, I mean, there's nowhere to hide there, because it's going to come out real quick.
Right. Of course. Of course. It reminds me of an old line, Bob Gallio, a Rescue 2 guy.
Yeah.
And when I asked him, and I love Bob, he's a good man, good friend of mine. When you got the squads coming in, they got 252, and I think that they get 1-2 squad 1 in Brooklyn in
Yeah.
'98 when it was formed. He's like, did you like it because you had extra help? He's like, no, I called them my little yellow friends because the front was on the engines.
Yeah. I know Bobby more after the job, but yeah, he's funny.
Yeah, great guy, great guy.
Uh,
Hopefully, I could see him soon if he's up for some good old New Haven pizza,
yeah.
as we've been trying to do. And the other
Thanks.
thing, yeah, the other thing about details too is sometimes you get to go to the concerts. You got Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Maybe you get to go to that, especially for the playoff games. Any interesting experiences on that end?
I mean, I've done the whatchamacallit, the Hammer teams, working Subway Series and stuff like that. I guess it's cool, but nothing crazy, that was going on. I mean, we were running all over the city doing that, but nothing spectacular. I'm sorry, I don't have a great story there.
That's
I got other stories for you, but not there.
Sure. Well, hit me with those.
Yeah. So, well, I guess like 2004. I mean, that was the pinnacle of my career. It's something that I never thought was going to happen to me. It just kind of fell into my lap, and June 12th, 2004, Bobby Engel, Tree Trio, dispatcher 330 in the Bronx, starts Rescue 3 out on a fire. I forget the exact address on Bruckner Boulevard, but it sounds like there's going to be a roof rope rescue right from the get-go. He sounds, it sounds bad. And, we start out over there, and Chief Corrigan from the 17 is acting deputy chief that night. And, we pull up. Kevin Williams is the boss in Rescue 3, and I got the rope. And he says, Rescue 3, I need you on the roof. It looks like there's going to be a roof rope rescue up there. And, we walk up a 4-story adjacent, get up on the roof. I look over, I see 42 trucks setting up a roof rope evolution. I go over to the firefighter. I says, "Are you good?" That's the way we were on Rescue 3. We didn't step on anybody. A gentleman's rescue. We made sure that they knew what they were doing. Yes, I have it. I look over the shaft. He's got it. I look over the shaft, and there's 2 different people hanging out the window, and there's a male hanging out of one apartment window, and it's a female. The evolution that they're starting on, and so the bulkhead's on fire. We have nowhere to tie off up there, and Richie Bailey's my partner. I look over at Richie, and I said, "Hey, Richie," I said, "I'm going to be going over," and Kevin Williams is right there by me, and he says, "Where are we tying off to?" I said, "We're not tying off." I said, you're going to take the turns on your hook, and I'm going to hook in, and we're going to go over. And basically, it's an open shaft, if you will. I know it's kind of hard. It's like this. It's an open shaft. So there's a lady over here, and there's a guy here, and this evolution is going. The guys in the loops, getting ready to go over, and we're setting up our evolution. No substantial object, and I won't name the company or the firefighter, but he steps out of the loops where the lady was, and Pat McKenna from Rescue 3 steps in the loops. Somebody's got to go get this lady, and at the same time, there is a picture of both of us sitting on a parapet. It's from a distance, shot from an adjacent building, and we both go over to the side of the parapet, and we pick off a male victim and a female victim. According to Kevin Williams, and he was the senior guy in SOC when he retired. Forget how many years he had. He said it's the first time a simultaneous roof rope rescue took place.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a side by side. You can look back, with Patty Brown's and Kevin Shays and That was it was a high profile job. It was a ballsy job, excuse me, but it was, that's what it was, but at the same time, this one went off without a hitch, um, it's training outside the box. And me knowing how to do this, it started back in 19 truck, to go over without a substantial object. And we train on it as SOC firefighters, you know. But Steve Luisi, that's the captain of 44 truck, he was a covering boss, bouncing around the Bronx as a lieutenant. He was a great guy. He was always training this way, training that way. And he covered a lot in 19 truck. He always wanted to, he wasn't too much on building inspection at the time, but he's like, let's train, let's train. And always training outside the box to know how to do this. And, like he was there with me, not physically that day, but mentally he was there doing this, with me to make sure that it went right. And amongst, with the team I had on the roof, because it's, they say dope on a rope, right? So Patty and Jeff are the dopes on a rope, but at the same time, the brains that are, setting up the evolution and lowering the guys that are there, they got to know how to make it work. But anyway, I get a medal for this on Medal Day, and I'll just speed forward on that real quick. It's just because Steve Luisi's there at Gaelic Park, and I just, I went up to him, I hugged him, and we're just talking, and I'm like, yeah, you were there with me, brother. You taught me this, and that was a big thing. It was a big sense of accomplishment. I came to Rescue 3 October 5th of 01, and I think that we really proved ourselves that day, that we could, as a unit, we could operate. It's not just me and Patty, it's a unit operating, and we made it work, and I think that was, and that year in 2004, Danny Foley made a confined space rescue. It was, I don't know, a guy was caught in some type of fuel tank. He was in the fuel tank, and he was overcome by fumes, and Danny made a brave rescue. He went in on air, with the dart cart that we had, like breathing air, because you can't wear an SCBA in there. You got to have like confined space air. And anyway, he goes in and he makes a rescue. So Rescue 3 that year made 3 high-profile rescues in 2004. And I don't know. You think somebody from downtown or the mayor's office would have seen it, and said, hey, you know what? This is a good thing, like what these guys are doing, I mean, it's showing that the department is moving on, and with all that experience that we lost, and we'll never gain that experience back again, but they are operating, to a high standard, if you will, and so I got a medal for that, and it really was the pinnacle of my career, because it was shortly, 6-7 months later that my career would come into a crashing halt. But I'm working in 29 truck. I get detailed from Rescue 3 outside the command, which is not very common, So we were heavy that day. The command was heavy, so they detailed me to 29 truck. In the South Bronx, and I got a 29 truck welding, it's a day tour, and I'm there. It's an uneventful day, and the phone rings, and Firefighter Cool, Rescue 3, pick up the department phone. I pick up the phone, Firefighter Cool, hey Jeff, it's Ralph Tizo. Now this is my captain that took me to Rescue 3 that's since retired. Remember, the guy had a stack of medals like this. He goes, my whole career, he goes, I'm so proud of you. My whole career, he goes, all I wanted to do was make a roof rope rescue, and you did it. He goes, I'm so proud of you. And that was better than getting a medal. It was just because you get that kudos from, from your captain, and he retired, prior to that, so he wasn't there to physically see it, but he did come to Medal Day, so.
And the dog's proud of it too.
Well, you can hear my dog. Yeah, that's well, I have one dog. Well, I have two dogs. My one dog is he's named Joey, and he's named after Joey DiBernado, my boys, and he's a service dog without being a service dog, and he's getting ready to turn 6. And then I have another one that's Toby, and he's a rescue. You know, I've had him 2 years now. You know, and 2 sheepadoodles. You know, so.
I've got my nephew, my fur nephew, as I call him. He's a toy poodle, and we watch him often. You know, my sister's off at work or whatever. And Monday is usually my sleep-in day, and he had slept over the night before. And he's the only person that can do this in the world, and I won't get mad at. You know, because it's 7 o'clock. I'm sleeping until 9 usually on a Monday, and all I hear is barking, barking, barking downstairs. And I go downstairs, and I'm like, "What is it?" And he just looks at it. He just jumps off the couch. He starts giving me face licks. He's just happy to see me. And I'm like, "All right, you know what? When you look at that face, you just gotta let it slide. You can't get upset."
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
The dogs are the best. They're the best.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Garrett Lindgren saying Ralph Tiso was a great fire officer. I don't doubt it.
Oh, absolutely. The best.
So, you know, that day, as you and you talked about the Black Sunday fire a lot. The last time that there was an incident in New York City where multiple first responders were killed on the same day in separate incidents. You may recall the Hoban Busick incident with the NYPD in 1988, where in separate incidents they were making undercover drug bust. They were shot and killed, and that was a tragic day in 1988 for the NYPD. And something eerily similar happens in 2005, and this is post, obviously excluding 9/11. This is arguably the worst day in FDNY history, and as you said, it had a significant impact on your career. Take me through, I guess, the fire that day and, you know, your resolve and recovery.
So, I came into work the night of. You still hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I stay here.
Still like I know it's like. I come into work on the night of the 22nd of January, and nor'easter is hitting the Northeast, and I'm talking to my neighbor across the street. He's a battalion chief today, John Gormley, but at the time, he was a Harlem firefighter, and you know, we're just shooting it, you know, like, hey, you know, well, I guess the wives are going to have to take care of the snow tonight, you know, blah blah blah, you know, and of course my wife's like, every time it snows, you're going into work, you know, and going to work that night, kind of a couple runs, good meal, you know. Joey DiBernado's working, so it's a lot of fun. It's always, you know, he had a sixth sense of humor, you know, so I was always laughing at you know, I have a sixth sense of humor also, and my wife still says today, coming up on 18 years now since I've been in a firehouse. It's you're not in a firehouse anymore. You know, it's like stop. You know, I hear it once or twice a week. You know, but anyway, we got a couple of small runs that night, and got a few winks. You know, rested our eyes, and we're up early that morning. Then the morning of January 23rd, 2005. For a smoke walk, we come back in to the kitchen, drinking coffee, solving the world's problems, as most firehouses do. I don't know. Maybe they can still do that. I don't know. Solve the world's problems. I don't know if it's, but anyway, a lot of ball breaking, and the department radio's on, and we hear this job come in. It sounds like a job, and it turns out to be a job. Not knowing that for some of us, it's going to be our last one, an eerie thing. I don't know if I've said this in any podcast before, is that we're riding on Rescue 3's rig that the brothers rode to on their last run on 9/11. So we're on that rig. And anyway, we respond to 236 East 178th Street in the Morris Heights section of the Bronx. 1075 has been transmitted. It's a 4-story, 40 by 90, non-fireproof, multiple dwelling, 3 apartments per floor. And we got about a foot of snow on the ground. Wind is blowing in excess of 45 miles an hour. Temperature is in the teens. There's one thing to have a fire, And I always call them monkey wrenches. Like these little things. They just keep throwing them in. Here's another thing: 45-mile-an-hour winds. Wind-driven fire. Temperatures in the low teens. That means hydrants are going to freeze. Hoses are going to freeze. Slipping. Foot of snow. Delayed response. And we get into this fire, and we report it to the chief. And chief tells rescue. He goes, "I want your inside team to the top floor to assist the truck company on the top floor." He might have said it was 27 truck. I don't recall, but we report to the top floor. I'm rescue irons. Joey's rescue hook, and Chris King is our captain that day. The outside team is to the roof, which was Danny Burke and Richie Bailey, and then we were riding heavy. All the rescues and all the engines were riding heavy. The city did do something right that night. They had 5-man engines, and we had an extra guy on each rescue. So Pat McKenna was the OV that night, and Doug Hantush was the chauffeur of Rescue 3, and his job was to go to the fire floor with the thermal imaging camera, to assist the truck and engine as they're moving in on the fire. So I've said this before. I'll say it again. It looks like a textbook fire. Problem is there is no textbook fires. We as firefighters, we train and train and train. We read books. We go to classes. We do drills. Somebody that doesn't go to those is fire and slumlords. Unfortunately, there was illegal SROs that were placed inside this building. Again, there was 3 apartments per floor. We know at least that day that there was 3I and 4L. They were illegally subdivided inside. So each bedroom in there was an apartment. So they were chained and padlocked. And we as firefighters, when we go into a fire, we're going into a maze. We use these. These are our eyes. We feel around and we search. We do have thermal imaging cameras today, to help us see. But it's a tool. These are your best tools. Your physical eyes and your hands. To navigate around. And we get in. We get to the top. We're going up the stairs. The fire's on the 3rd floor. We get to the top floor, and when I passed the fire floor, it was a moderate smoke condition. I didn't even have a face piece on, So maybe I got a little snotted up, but I wasn't getting beat up, And we get up there, and 27 trucks already got the 3 apartments on the top floor popped, and there's a report of somebody missing on the top floor. We're up there, assisting 27 truck, trying to find his victim, searching for any extension up there. And while we're doing this, they're moving in on a fire. And I know this by talking to Dougie Hantush, is that they think they're hitting fire initially, and they lose water pressure for whatever reason. There's a lot of speculation. I mean, you can read the NIOSH report, and you can read the fatal fire report. I personally believe, and I could tell you more about this, is that they just put stuff in there to appease people, to try to put it to bed. Okay. They put stuff in there, and I can tell you on my father's grave that they speculate that John Bellew knocked me over in the fire department. And I talked to the chief that put his name on, that investigated that fire. And I said, "Where do you come up with that John Bellew knocked me over?" And he said his widow wanted something, and we gave her something. And that doesn't sit real well with me,
Nor should it.
You know what? I'll swear in a court of law, about that, and like I said, on my father's grave. And so anyway, I'm sorry to get off track, but
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
It bothers me today, like that. Those reports, everybody thinks that they're like law. We were just talking about the fatal fire in Spring Valley where Jarrett Lloyd was lost.
Yes.
I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, it was last year, I believe.
Yeah. So that's Rockland County where I was a volunteer. So I have a vested interest in that. That fire, because there's illegal occupancies going on in Rockland County, rampant. So these SROs, and a task force was started. So anyway, we'll back up. So they're moving in on this fire. I know I got off track a little bit. They're moving in on this fire. They lose water. Now, when they lost water, I don't know why they lost water, but they lost water. I believe that ice either got into the impeller and the engine and shut it down, or ice got in a line and shut it down, and they lost water. So 42 engine lost water on the fire floor. So 75 engine was ordered to back their line off the top floor down to the fire floor, to go in to put the fire out. At the same time, Rescue 3 and Ladder 27 pushes on, searching for this missing victim up there, and to search for any extension without the protection of a hand line. Well, it's not the first time in a New York City Fire Department. You can read how many metal day books without the protection of a hand line. And it's not to be a hero. It's not like that's not. Listen, this might have just been walking somebody down the stairs, but we did what we did, and things went bad real quick. Not because of us, but because people did bad stuff. So they're moving in on this fire, and they think they're hitting a fire because Doug Hantush is telling me, he's like, they got the thermal imaging camera, and he's a very versed guy with the thermal imaging camera. He sees fingers of fire coming, at him, and the engine company's pushing in, and they think they're hitting the body of the fire, but what's there is a illegal wall. There's an illegal wall that's made out of MDF. It's compressed particle. It's particle board is basically what it was. They put it there. They put an illegal wall in with 2x4s, and they made another room. But they didn't run it floor to ceiling. It was about 8 to 10 inches shy of the ceiling. And fire's coming over this wall, and they think that they're hitting the fire, but they're not hitting the fire. And there's already been, a delay in putting the fire out because, they lost water in that one line. Anyway, fire continues to burn and build, and we're up there on the top floor, and we have an illegal wall up there, unbeknownst to ourselves. We have an illegal wall in 4L, and this wall runs floor to ceiling, and it's sheetrocked with 2x4 construction. So the fire continued to burn and burn and burn, and it basically what it did, it burned up and blew back down on us, and we were up there. And I also have to say that, something that we found out after going through the civil trial, stuff that I didn't even know, is that this was a 20 amp fuse, old screw-in fuse building, like a lot of the old buildings in the city. And they were sticking 30 amp fuses in it because they kept popping, because they got all these tenants living in one apartment, and they have space heaters, they have refrigerators, they have microwaves, TVs, gaming consoles. And so this fuse wouldn't burn out, this 30 amp fuse. The cord was what would melt down. And that's where the fire started. The guy had in his illegal room, he had a TV, a space heater, a microwave, and a gaming console, all plugged into a 99-cent brown extension cord that melted down, and it communicated to his bed, and then that's where the fire started, and it burned up. So, we're on the floor above, and I'm going round and round up there, searching with Joey and with Chris King, my captain, and I have a thermal imaging camera, and I'm already looking, but Captain King says to me, continue to pan, the walls and the ceilings, and I find a heat source in the kitchen wall in 4L, and I pop a small hole in a wall, and fire immediately starts to vent out. At the same time, fire starts to vent from the back area. It's already came up to the top floor, and the wind's blowing it back around to us. And Captain King is immediately on the radio with an urgent message. We need a line to the top floor. We got fire blowing. You can listen to the radio transmissions. And if you haven't listened to them, YouTube them. Black Sunday, FDNY. Listen to the radio transmissions. I mean, it's the first time in a fatal fire where handy-talkie transmissions were recorded. It was a pilot program, and it didn't capture every radio that day, and I believe that's I don't know. That's again the New York City Fire Department evolving. We had problems with our radios prior to 9/11. On 9/11, they were supposed to be improved, and I still, like when I was still there that day, I know I made other radio transmissions that weren't captured on that recorder. But it is what it is. But we do have a lot of a timestamp that day of what went on, and just prior to that fire being found and that urgent message being transmitted, I believe it was like a minute earlier. They were asking, for a progress report for the top floor, and you hear Kurt Meyran, he's the boss in 27 truck. He's like, they asked any extension up there. He says slight extension, and I think maybe it's 45 seconds later you hear urgent message. We need a line to the top floor. Now I'm in this kitchen, with Chris King, my captain, and it's going lights out now. It's snotted up. I'm masked up, and I pan my thermal imaging camera towards the back of the apartment, and I pick up silhouettes of firefighters, and I advance towards them to tell them that they got to fall back, because the front door is behind us, and I get up to this firefighter, and I'm like, brother, we got to fall back, and he's like, we're trapped, and I turn around and floor to ceiling, it's fire, and we're pushed into this bedroom in front of us. It's like bedroom 1, 2, and 3, and where the illegal wall is. So we're pushed like straight ahead. To the left is the bedroom. I wish I had the diagrams, or you had the diagrams to throw up, but to the left is where Joey is. He's in bedroom 1. I'm in bedroom 2 with everybody in 27 truck, with the exception of John Bellew. There's another bedroom 3, and I think they had 4, but there's an illegal wall that they threw up that to our right that doesn't allow us to get to the fire escape. And we're trapped like rats in a cage. And Mayday after Mayday message is being transmitted. The door's closed. I mean, fire's starting to vent in the room. We're circling around this room. At some point, I did get knocked over in a room. I lost my hand tools. No fault of, whoever knocked me over, and I get pushed to a window, and 27 truck gets pushed to a window. Their inside team, Lieutenant Meyran, Brendan Cawley, that was a probie, his first fire, and Eugene Solowski. And to my left is Joey DiBernado in bedroom 1. And, these Mayday after Mayday are going on, and time is of the essence. And, the brothers are making a diligent effort to come and get us, to knock the fire down. There's a roof rope evolution being set up on the roof. The problem is, I'll just give a quick layout of this building, is that exposure 1 is the street, 2 is a parking lot, alley, 3 is an alley. When I say alley, no access to get an aerial back there, and there's a below grade entrance back there. Okay, like a lot of the apartment buildings in the Bronx. And 4 is a similar attached. So we're 5 stories above the ground, and our tallest portable ladder is 35 feet, so it's not getting there. And this illegal wall is preventing us from getting to the fire escape. Somewhere that we should have been able to easily. I mean, even if we had to go through fire, we could have got to the fire escape. We have our PPE on and go to the fire escape, and down we go, or to the roof we go. Either way, and it didn't happen that way. Again, the roof rope evolution is being set up, and you look back to the Trade Center, people jumping. When fire is at your tail, you do, you do what you got to do. It's stay here and burn to death or jump, and hope that it's over, quickly. And so anyway, Lieutenant Meyran, and I know this just by talking to the brothers, is that he's going to go first. He's going to show his Proby and his Ironsman, and he goes out the window and he hangs by his fingers and he drops to the ground below. He goes 5 stories to the ground below. And I told you there was a foot of snow on the ground, but that's what they said. There was a foot of snow on the ground. This below grade entrance, it was concrete. It was littered with debris, and the wind blowing, it was like powdered snow. It just blew all the way. So he hit concrete. They guesstimate that, when well, I'll get to that in a minute. Then it's the Proby's turn. It's Brendan Corley's turn. This is his first fire. His brother Michael was killed on 9/11.
Yeah.
And he goes out the window. Down to the ground he goes. Now it's Stolowski's turn. Now I know these guys are going, but my mind doesn't allow me to physically see this anymore. And he goes out the window. He gets hung up on a child guard gate. His alligator clip on his waist strap, on his SCBA, gets hung up, and he's hanging upside down, 5 stories above the ground. And he hangs there for a couple seconds, and it lets go, and down to the ground he goes. Now, I'm up on a portable air conditioning unit, 5 stories above the ground. Fire's blowing out over my head. Joey describes it as like a jet engine. He goes, the fire that's blown out of your head is like a jet engine. I'm on, it's probably got a couple screws, maybe a nail holding this window air conditioning unit, in. And by the grace of God, it didn't let go. And Joey's in the room to the left of me, and I said, Joey, I got a rope, but I got nowhere to tie it off to. He says, throw me the rope. I argue with him quickly, not knowing like how I'm going to lower him. But he goes, you got a wife and kids. You go first. And said a quick prayer. And I looked up again. The brothers still weren't there, And I threw him one end of the rope. And I took the other end of the rope and I wrapped it around myself in a belay fashion. And I rolled out the window. And I believe I pendulumed. I believe I was here and Joey was here. I believe I pendulumed past him, came back in. I hit the wall right underneath him and down to the ground. I went. Probably cut 15 feet off my fall. Joey used the same rope and clipped it onto a child guard gate. Excuse me. It's not a substantial object. It's what we had. And he clips it onto it and he wraps it around himself in a belay fashion and rolls out the window. Gets down 12 to 15 feet, down to the ground he goes. Now, when Joey fell, all right, so I got to go back to when I fell. I pendulumed, I said, in front of Joey's window. I landed an inch or two from the below grade entrance steps that went down another 10 feet. Joey went the additional 10 feet. He fell into where, right below my window. So it was all hands back there. Lieutenant White from 56 Truck, again, getting back to the radio transmissions. He's watching all the guys, like in the back of the building. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys just jumped, and I've talked to him more than once, and I said, I'd rather be back in that window today and do it all over again and stand where you stood that day, helplessly stood. It's no fault of his, but just what he has burned into his mind, that he'll live with until the day he dies. It's just it's a tough thing to swallow. We should have it should have never happened that day, right? It was bad things. A bad landlord, a bad super doing bad things to make money. But it was bad on the city of New York's part too. In 1999, up until December 1999, we all had personal ropes, right? When I came on a job, we had 40 feet of personal rope that we carried in our pocket, and we wore harnesses, the same harnesses that they wear today. We had when I came on a job in '92, but Tommy Von Essen, the former fire commission, decided we don't need them anymore. We have bunker gear now. They don't fit our gear. That's what he said. It's too much weight to carry. Guys are having heart attacks, and we don't need them. There's no documented cases of these being used in the past. Well, you know what? I dug around. I brought it in. Because I wasn't going to let this go. We had 33 documented cases of these ropes being used prior to them being taken away. They had a shelf life, and they didn't want to spend the money. If they would have spent the money, guys got hurt that day? There's possibility, would have been career ending, possibly, but would they have been alive? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind they would have been alive. There's blood on somebody's hands, and it ain't mine. Unfortunately, that day, Kurt Meyran was killed. John Bellew, he went out one of the windows on the top floor, and we believe that John shot up there after those Mayday messages were transmitted, trying to get us, and he got trapped, and out the window he went. But I don't know what window he went out. They were killed. Catastrophic injuries, to all of us. Brendan Cawley being the least, by the grace of God, he had the least amount of injuries, and he's still working with FDNY today. He's a full duty firefighter. He lectures our probies, and he lectures across the country like myself. Eugene Stolowski, he had an internal decapitation. His knee came up, hit his chin, drove his head back. It hit the top of his mask. Basically, he was dead on the ground, and I forget the firefighter's name from Squad 41, but a former paramedic. He came over and opened his airway and stabilized him, and got him breathing again. But Gene is an absolute miracle. He's fused. He has he had major injuries. There was a 5% chance of him walking and or living again. And then Joey landed on his feet. Joey broke like all the bones in his feet, crushed his pelvis, amongst other injuries. But his biggest pain was, he broke all those bones in his feet. And he always said it was like walking on broken glass all the time. I broke my pelvis, shattered my pelvis. I bled out 72 units of blood before they had all the bleeding stopped. A normal human being holds 8 to 10 units of blood. I bled out over and over again before they had all the bleeding stopped. They had to cut me from my sternum to my belly button, open me up, take all my internal organs, rest them outside my body. I was on a vent. I was burned. I broke my shoulders. Basically I said, to speed it up a little bit, I said,
I'll wait for Jeff to come back. That's the story of Black Sunday, and you can't forget about Richie Sclafani. Richie Sclafani was in Ladder 103, I think in Brooklyn, and Richie was killed in a fire that day too. Jeff's back.
I'm back. I don't know what it is.
Don't worry about it.
But anyway, I say that I was put back together with crazy glue and duct tape. Because my body is, I'm here. It's people look at Gene and Jeff when they stand side by side with one another, and you can put Gene, Jeff, and Brendan side by side with one another, and we're all different. We don't look the same. Gene is fused, and he's very slow, and I have the shoulders in 5 pieces. My pelvis is shattered and racked, and I don't have any plates and stuff in me. I have a lot of issues. I'm not going to complain about them. I'm here. I got to see my boys grow up. unfortunately for Kurt and John and their families, they didn't get that benefit, and it's tough, and this all transpired that morning, and I heard you saying when I got back in is that afternoon in a separate fire, um, Richie Sclafani of 103 Truck, he died in a fire. He was lost that day, and he's part of Black Sunday, and that's where the media came up. It was the darkest day post 9/11 for FDNY, and we've since that day we've lost two in a day, and I hope that we never surpass that again. It's just crazy, but I fought diligently, to get back on my feet. I mean, I spent 30 some odd days in ICU before I was transported to Helen Hayes Rehab Hospital in West Haverstraw, New York, to learn to walk and function again. When they first got me up and tilted me up, I had two 5.5-inch titanium bolts in my pelvis with the erector set across it, an external fixator. That's how they stabilized my pelvis. And when they cut me open and put my guts back in, well, when they put them back in, they just closed the fascia. So I had a big hole there, a big hole from my sternum all the way to my belly button. It was like, and my weight, I was probably the day of the fire, it was probably about 205. And when I first got to weigh myself, I was down to 153 pounds. So I looked like I was like from a concentration camp, and skin and bones, learning to walk and function and to pick my arm up again. I mean, that's it. I mean, I can't pick my arm up any more than that. It is what it is. But, I fought a long, diligent fight, had some great support from my, first and foremost, my wife, because when my wife got to the hospital, she knew it was bad, and she's from a NYPD family. She was a smart one. She married a fireman, but anyway, my father, he was a lieutenant at 3L back in the day.
We'll get Jeff back momentarily. There he is.
Yeah, I think that was you that time. It looked like you, not me.
It might have been because, like I said, this rainstorm. Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, she told the doctors, she knew it was bad. She said my head was swollen up like that. She goes, put them back together any way you can, and I'll take them. And when we take those vows for better or for worse, I mean, she really meant it. I put her through hell. Through this whole ordeal. I mean, it wasn't easy. It's like it's one thing, to survive that, but then your career ends, and then your brothers die, and living with survivor's guilt, and living with PTSD, and not being the man that you once were. It's a tough go. And then it got tougher down the road, because November 22nd, 2011, Joey, survived this and this fire that day, and then we lost Joey. We lost Joey to, he went into respiratory distress, combination of the pain and psychological medicine that he was on, and I couldn't believe that we lost him. I mean, this guy just fought so hard, just like myself, to get through, to learn to walk and function again, but he had a hard time, and with the psychological part, along with the pain, and unfortunately, doctors, they still do it today, is that they got their head down here. They're looking at it. They're looking down here and not looking at you to see what's going on. And they're just writing scripts. And I really believe that's what killed Joey. I tried and tried and tried, but a combination of medicine killed Joey, and I know that firsthand. Listen, I was on morphine. I was on fentanyl before we knew what fentanyl was. You're like now I'm so, like, I consider myself so blessed that I was on fentanyl. and I survived that, because it's such a scary drug. Like they had to wean me off of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was on oxycodone, I was on Ambien, I was this, that, and everything. You know what? And I was washing it down with the Heineken, right? Not not trying to kill myself. Just wanted to sleep. Just wanted to sleep. That's all I wanted to do is sleep and not feel pain. And it might be hard for people to understand that, but it's tough. Like I read a lot of military books. Here we go. Now it's you, Mike. It's not me. Hey, and Mike will be right back. And here's Jeff running the show.
No, I'm here. Can you see me?
I hope he comes back soon.
I'm here. I'm here. I don't know what if we're having some tech problems.
Mike,
Jeff,
you coming back today?
Can you see me, Jeff?
Well, we might have lost Mike, but
no, I'm right here.
So I don't know if everybody's out there listening to me, but what I did wasn't the right thing, but I wasn't trying to harm myself. But it's just dealing with what you have in front of you. I was running a show without you.
Okay, you can see me now. I was here.
Oh, you were here? You can hear me talk?
You can hear me talk?
Yeah. So, but like I just think it's important, for people to understand, like I've been through this, right? And I wasn't trying to harm myself. I read this book sometime back on this MARSEC Raider or Marine, spec ops guy, and he's dealing with pain, and he's talking to me in this book, like he's like he was taking all these pills and stuff, and drinking like crazy, and again, not trying to kill himself, but his heart's racing one night, and his girlfriend flushed his body because his heart is just racing, just copious amounts of water flushing his body, and from there he never turned back, but it's the mental health part of it, it's dealing with finding the right counselor.
Oh, we keep losing Jeff, man. I don't know what's going on.
And there goes Mike again. For me to find my right counselor, and also to find God, and it wasn't really until I found God that my head was screwed on straight, and to push forward with that.
I got a clip here before I get to the conclusion.
I really apologize that we're just having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight.
No, it's all right.
I never was an AV guy, so hopefully Mike gets back soon.
Oh, well, he can't see me quite yet, but hopefully I'll wait for him to see me. But if you guys can see me in the chat, I have a clip here of Lieutenant Meyran.
But through I think he's coming back.
Can you see me now?
Through this whole ordeal, through tragedy comes something good. And we lost Joey that day, and I got my head screwed on right, and and there's days I just had guys down here at my beach house, guys that are firemen and cops, retired and stuff now. And we were talking about dealing with all this, life and everything. And, 9/11 being right around the corner, and, how doors close and you think they're closed, but every now and then they pop open, so that happens with me. It's like, 9/11, every year that anniversary comes. And then I got the anniversary of Joey's death. And then I got the anniversary of Black Sunday. It's just managing that, how you manage it. But again, you got to be able to do that, and be real with yourself, be truthful, so don't try to bury it, because it does no good. But, when we lost Joey, November 22nd, 2011, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't even cry. That's how crushed I was. I just couldn't cry. I couldn't believe that we lost him. And sometime later after that, that the brothers were talking, and I believe it was John Salka and Mike Dugan came up with the idea that to start a foundation in Joey's name. And it's 9 years now. We have a foundation, the Joey D Foundation, and we provide grants to fire departments across North America that can't afford bailout systems. And I guess let's go back to the New York City Fire Department. They didn't have ropes that day. They took them away from us. But they did get ropes after Black Sunday. They spent $16.5 million to develop the most in-depth study that's ever been done on bailout systems. And on our bailout system, the FDNY bailout systems, on the XO device, the descent control device, it has 1, 2, 3 on it to commemorate that day. So guys don't forget.
Right.
So I guess, fortunately for any guy or girl that comes on the FDNY, they'll always have a bailout system now. Because of Black Sunday, they'll never leave. They're never. That's a part of equipment that's never ever going to leave the New York City Fire Department. But then to get back to Joey's foundation, there's a lot of departments and firefighters in the country that don't even know about Black Sunday. And that's something that only, and if they do know about it, that's only something that happens in a big city. Well, that's just bogus. In 2009 in New York State, I used to say the great state of New York, but I can't even say that anymore. In 2009, we had 10 firefighters bail out of 3-story or less wood frame structures. It was Buffalo, Syracuse, and the city of Yonkers. And in the city of Yonkers case, unfortunately, for those that don't know it, here's the Bronx and here's Yonkers. They butt right up against one another. And we didn't learn from death in the New York City Fire Department. The other departments didn't learn from it. And Patty Joyce from Rescue 1 in the Yonkers Fire Department was trapped in a 3-story frame type. He jumped, and I believe he was impaled on a wrought iron fence, and he bled out at the scene. And it happens. There's bailouts happening across the country, and some departments, they can't afford them. With Joey, with Joey's foundation that we started, his dad, he was the 6th Division Commander, Vietnam vet. He's the president of the foundation. We're a 501c3, and when I say a 501c3, nobody's on payroll. We are a true volunteer organization, and we've given out $700 and some odd $1,000 in grants to fire departments across North America. And in doing so, our biggest fundraising effort comes from doing training seminars. Initially, it was just at the Suffolk County Fire Academy on Long Island. We'd run a weekend seminar. And now we run 2 days of hands-on at the Suffolk County Fire Academy and 1 day of classroom lectures. And we just recently went to Texas and Woodlands just outside of Houston, and we also run a seminar there. And that's our biggest fundraiser. So we're not only saving lives by providing safety gear, we're educating firefighters with some of the best in the business. So this year, November 4th through the 6th at the Suffolk County Fire Academy, we're running our seminar. The application process is open right now. They do take vouchers. So if you're in a volunteer fire department or a paid department and you want to attend, some of the best instructors in the country are there instructing, teaching in a much smaller atmosphere. It's like a 12-to-1 student to teacher ratio. And it's just great stuff, great bonding, and Joey's name lives on, and we're saving firefighters' lives.
Amazing. And I'll say, I'll borrow a line from my friend Joe Guerra from ESU, who I interviewed yesterday. Even his career also cut short. Like I mentioned, he was shot in the face. He said about his 12 years in the NYPD, though it didn't last as long as I would have wanted to. I got a lot of mileage out of those 12 years. And I imagine, even though your career did not last long as you wanted it to, you got a lot of mileage out of those 13 years, my friend. It was a great career.
Yeah, it was a great career. I wish I could have at least made 20, but I'll just add, I do other stuff, like I speak. I just wrote an article for a book, not an article, a chapter for a book. It's like 30 famous fires that the fire service should know about. Got another book coming out, and you know what? It's not about me. It's benefiting, firefighter charities, and hopefully Joey's charity. I know one of them is, Joey's charity is benefiting from it. I've jumped out of a plane from 10,000 plus feet with Mike Dugan and Bobby Halton. Actually, Mike Dugan went first. So we were at maybe at 10,000 feet, and then Dugan went, and then the plane went up to 12,000 feet, and then I went, and we raised $500,000 that day for our veterans and first responders. My buddy Ryan Parrott, he was a former Navy SEAL, SEAL sniper for 8 years, and he runs 2 different charities. I'm proud to say I've done some work with him, and paying it forward, because that's what it's about. Listen, I can't crawl down a hallway anymore, but I can still do stuff for a fellow mankind. And I'm a big advocate for one more ad, one more plug for me, and it's not about me again. Giving blood. Listen, I told you I took 72 units of blood, so I got 72 different people that are alive in me, that saved my life, and I met 12 of my 72 donors through the New York Blood Center at a gala luncheon. It was the first time they ever did it, and every race, color, creed, black, white, Oriental, NYPD. I'll tell you what, it was phenomenal. I had tears in my eyes meeting all these people, and I'm an advocate. And when New York Blood Center calls me and says, "Hey, we want you to speak and tell your story," I tell my story.
Before I get to concluding segment, which is rapid fire, it's been a hell of a show with you. I do have the late Lieutenant Meyran speaking back in 1998. He'd been cited for a great rescue in 1996. And I just want the audience to get a glimpse of who he was. He really lived and breathed the fire service. Good man, gone too soon. Here he is back in 98.
Hi, good evening. I'd like to thank the Firefighters Quarterly and everybody who considered me for this award. It's a group effort. We all work together. At the time, I had a 2-year-old at home and hoped that somebody would do the same for us if the need arose. Timing was the bottom line. I was glad to be in the right place at the right time for the outcome to be a happy one. This means a lot to me, to be able to share this honor with everyone here, especially my family, Jeanette, my son Dennis, my daughter Angela. I'm proud to be a part of the department. Truly an honor for me. Thank you much.
A simple man and a heroic man, and he is not forgotten. It's now time for the rapid fire. 5 hit run questions from me, 5 hit run answers from you. Like I said, been a hell of a show. Are you ready?
Sure.
First, top 5 favorite Rangers of all time.
Oh, Mike Richter, Alexei Kovalev, Mark Messier, Adam Graves, and Nicky Fotiu.
Nicky Fotiu, I haven't heard that one in a while. Good list, pretty good list. A lot of those guys, pivotal members of the 94 Cup team. Second, most uplifting call you ever responded to?
I got to go back to my roof rope rescue, That was,
Yeah, that's a good one. Of course, it's a classic one. That's that's one of the
Well,
highlights.
you know why I say it? Because the first person I called when, that day, and cell phones were, they were still kind of new, is calling Jeff Jr. That's who I talked to tell him. So that's
Somebody, speaking of somebody in the chat, Stu Kelsall, he wants to know how's your son doing? Since you mentioned he's in EMS, how's he getting on?
He's doing, but he's really hoping to do the MUPS program soon. So hopefully DCAS gets their stuff together and gets some, because he's a paramedic and they're so understaffed right now. And he's looking, he really wants the fire part of it, but he's looking at the rescue medic, and he's into the medicine. Last night we were talking, and he goes, "I really wish I would have went and pursued the PA part, being a physician assistant." So who knows? He's still young.
Yeah. It's well, we'll wait for him to come back. It's important, yeah, especially after the last 2 years with COVID. So I'll wait for Jeff to come back, and I'll ask him the next one, which you guys know, which is the funniest call. Here's Jeff. There you go. We have to have one more little, it's again, my friend Roma Tori from New York One calls it tap dancing. So I'm going to text Roma later and tell her I mastered the art of it tonight.
Yeah.
She knows what that means. Shout out to Roma. Third, funniest call you ever responded to?
So this is going to go, I was thinking about this. I was like, well, the one I couldn't tell because of language, but then I was thinking of Joey D. So I don't know what year this was, but it was, do you remember, it was like the cover of the Daily News and the New York Post that there was a tiger, ESU slid off.
Yeah, I know the guy that slid down, and Marty Duffy, who's in two trucks. Yeah, I know that joke.
Yeah. So anyway, we're over in Harlem the one day. It's a collapse run, and we're standing in the street, and we're basically doing nothing. And Joey and I are there by the collapse rig, and a lady comes up and she goes, "What's going on?" He's like, "There's a gorilla up there." She goes, "Last week a tiger, this week a gorilla." So that was, I got a giggle out of that.
Yeah, my buddy's in three truck because I was in three trucks territory for ESU. Mike Garcia, who later went out to the bomb squad, finished his career out there, and Marty Duffy, who's still in ESU to this day, he was on that one. Yeah. And it's funny because I met Marty recently at two truck, and I walked by him, and I was introducing myself, and he said, "Hey, Marty," and I stopped. I'm like, "Duffy?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "You had that tiger job." He's like, "No." We had a good laugh about it. It's a funny job. It lives on in New York City lore. Fourth, favorite bar or restaurant in New York City?
Well, first I'm going to go to the oldest bar, McSorley's, right?
Of course, yes.
That's definitely where you're not going to just go have one, But I would say my favorite bar, it really isn't a bar. It's MSG. Sitting there having a beer, watching my New York Rangers. That's my favorite place to be.
I know. I got to get back to the Garden. I haven't been to the Garden in years. The Rangers are good again. I just need my Knicks to follow suit. So hopefully, memo to the Knicks: get good again, please, and get good again soon. And fifth and finally, given your experiences, you had such a great career. Truck 19, Rescue 3. You grabbed somebody right out of the rock, so eager to get on the job. What would you tell him or her?
Again, the job is it's earned, it's not given, and leave the job better, than what you found it. Learn something every day that you go to work. Every day you go to work, hone your skills on what you already know, and then continue to learn. And I think that goes all the way up into the chief of department, because once you stop learning, I listen to Tommy Richardson, and I know Tommy Richardson, after the job. I don't really remember working with him, even though our times, were parallel at time. But, he just, he talks about just leaving a job better, and learning a job. Like he was out there, he was riding a bus or riding an engine or riding a ladder truck, or I don't know if he even went back to the rescues. Maybe he did too. But, that to me, he still wants to have the pulse of the job, because that's so important, and never get out of touch with it. One of Joey's quotes was, and he had a lot of famous quotes, is that, professionalism is an attitude. It has nothing to do with the paycheck, and I think that's important, and and a lot of people, say, hey, I'm on a job. It doesn't matter if you're a cop or a fireman. Yeah, I'm on a job. And another one of was the saying, was like, are you on the job or into the job?
Yep.
Be into the job, so.
That's another one. And I've heard that one too, and it's so true. This has been great. Thanks to everybody that watched tonight. Jeff, don't sign off yet. We'll say goodbye off the air. Before I say goodbye to them, is there any shout outs you want to give to anyone or anything?
If anybody wants to find out about the Joey D Foundation, check out joeydfoundation.org. If you want to reach out to me about coming to speak on Black Sunday, I do lecture on Black Sunday. Look for me through social media or through Joey's Foundation. And again, I do charge a fee, but that fee is written right to the Joey D Foundation. Everything I do is for Joey D's Foundation and for my brother firefighters.
There you go. This has been a great show. Milestone Volume 25 of the Best of the Bravest. Thanks to everybody that watched tonight. I really appreciate it. Coming up next on the Mike DeNueven podcast, I'm working to confirm it. Should be Richie Ficken on Friday, who was a street crime cop, I should say. So if I don't have him confirmed, I'll try to think of something else. But it's supposed to be on tap for Friday, so hopefully I'll lock it in. And if you don't see me with him, well, then you'll see me with somebody else. But in the meantime, thanks, guys, like I said, for tuning in. Jeff, stick around. And on behalf of Jeff Cool, this has been Volume 25 of the Best of the Bravest. interviews with the FDNY's elite. I'm Mike Colón. We will see you next time. Let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers.